So David, that leads exactly to kind of what I was thinking about. My next question is, how does our quality of life affect our beliefs about death or the afterlife?
Well, I think this is something where neuroscience actually has something to offer.
Okay.
Right? So when I first started studying the brain, 40 plus years ago, I was taught, well, the brain just kind of sits there and it waits to react to something. Something comes in your senses, you hear something, you see something, your brain does something, and then you move your muscles and you respond to it. And that's what it is. The brain's kind of sitting there waiting for something to happen. It's a reactive organ.
Like a two-stroke motor or something.
Right. And well, even not like a two-stroke motor that isn't even started yet. That's waiting for someone to pull the ripcord, right, for it to start up. And what we now know, the modern conception of the brain, is that when you're just sitting there spacing out, your brain is really busy, and it is a prediction machine. Your brain is trying to figure out what's going to happen next in the near term. It's doing like, is that person who's walking up there friend or foe? Am I likely to be hungry lately? Oh, I see those French fries. Should I secrete some saliva of the type that's particularly good for breaking down starch, or am I going to eat meat? And so should I secrete this kind of saliva that's particularly good for breaking down protein? All of these are examples of where our brains and our body working together are trying to predict stuff in the near term. Well, what does that mean? It means that our brain is wired to presume that there will always be a near term, that there will be a future, right? And so, I got diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was told 4 years ago that I had 6 to 18 months to live. And, of course, that was really upsetting and I was freaking the fuck out about it. In addition, I could do practical stuff. Oh, I better write my will. I better have this conversation with my kids. I better, make sure this is done in the house and like these letters are written for my students, so them to go on the next part of their career, like
Better
all that
fix
practical
that window
stuff.
screen.
Right, exactly. And, but in terms of actually deeply engaging with myself not being there anymore, with my own demise, I felt like, I was skittering across the ice. I couldn't really dig in and grab it. I couldn't really think about what it's like for me not to be there anymore. And I thought, well, is this a personal failing? Do I just suck? And I thought, well, maybe, but I do, but
we all do.
But, what I'm thinking fundamentally is that this is not something that we as humans are designed to do. Our brains are hardwired to predict the near future, which presumes that there will be a near future, right? And so if you extrapolate this a little bit.
And what does extrapolate mean, just so people know?
I'm sorry, if you kind of move on to the next step, right, of what this means for faith, right? If you go around the world, nearly every, not absolutely every, but nearly every religion in the world has an afterlife or reincarnation story. Very few religions, Judaism is one, you're dead, and there isn't actually a story about what happens after you're dead. But almost every other one does.
Or the big invoice.
You go to heaven, you meld with the divine, you're reincarnated, but there's something that happens. Yeah. These stories are exceedingly popular all over the world in all cultures. Well, I think that the reason they are is because of this brain bug we have. We can't imagine ourselves dead because our brains are hardwired to predict the future. And that's why we have these afterlife and reincarnation stories in faiths all over the world. And so I have total sympathy for these, not just because I'm diagnosed with terminal cancer, because I see them as something deep and fundamental to what it is to be human and something that binds us all.
It's so funny, man. My next question is, why is it so hard for us to think about our own deaths?
Yeah, well, we got there. You got my answer. Yeah.
And it is funny because I'll start to think about it, right? And at first I can think about, okay, you're going to die, right? I can think about the certain, like the mechanics of like, okay, I'm in a hospital bed and I'm laying there and someone's holding my hand, all of that. The part where I start to like, it almost like makes my soul like, it's like when you're not going to exist.
Yeah.
That's the part my brain, it won't accept that. It's like, well, what do you mean I won't exist?
It's a very hard thing to deal with. And,
Do you think it's a clue?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a clue or not. I mean, for me, in sort of dealing with my terminal cancer diagnosis, it's like, for myself, I'm 63 years old. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I would love to have 20 more years or something like that. That would be great. But I've had a really good life. I got no complaints. I've got a terrific wife.
Yeah, you got to be in love.
I got great kids. I've gotten to be in love. I've gotten to do good work, have good friends, have adventures, do the things I want to do. I got to have a job where I don't have a boss and follow my own curiosity. Oh. Almost no one gets that, know? So like I've had a really good life. And when I think about not being there, it's not so much, I do want more of it. That's not the first thing. I think about my family.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I don't want to leave them. I don't want to leave my wife. I don't want to leave my kids. I don't want to leave the people who are close to me. That's the part that gets me fundamentally. Not like, oh shit, I wish I could have 20 more years of partying.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind listening to a couple more Grateful Dead tunes, in between loving my family.
Are you a Deadhead now?
I just got into them in the past year and a half, man.
Really? Oh, so a nouveau Deadhead. All right, okay.
But no, what's so funny, David, and thank you for sharing that, man. You know what sometimes makes me, like, I guess I don't know if it's lame or whatever to say, but like sometimes I feel like I could never let certain people know how much I love them, Yeah. It almost feels like it's not even physically possible sometimes to let like if I did, the cops would have to, like, you almost like, you know what I'm saying? Like it wouldn't be a perversion thing, but it would be like, hey, you can't loiter on my porch anymore. It's like, sometimes it feels like a feeling that's so impossible to completely share, like to let your kids know how much you love them. Like you probably could never do it.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I mean, for me, I do struggle with that, but I struggle with it less for the people I'm really close to, who I think I'm pretty good about telling them how I feel.
Right.
I think my wife knows how I feel. I think my kids know how I feel. I think, my friends, my colleagues, who I love deeply, I don't think, it's harder for that. It's harder for me to, go to my best work buddy and say, dude, like, you don't know how much I love you. That would be a little weird, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. It's hard to express some things without becoming an HR issue.
That's right.
So I think that's sometimes, and I don't know if that's scientific or not, but love sometimes gets shut down by the HR department.
And I think more in men. Yeah, I think men have a harder time with this. Yeah.
But it is funny that's the one feeling sometimes for me. It's like, I almost, you couldn't put together how much you love somebody or something, or somebody, you just couldn't put together how much you love somebody. It's like you can't, I don't know, love is this thing. It's so hard. It's like, I don't know. To me, it's just it's such a fascinating energy.
It is. And, it's remarkable to think that something that profound ultimately originates in this biological imperative to mate.
Right.
Right. And even though this love, translates into situations that don't have anything to do with, making babies or whatever, it generalizes. That's where it came from, And it's easy to think, oh, well, like it must have come from, something like this deep wellspring of mysticism. But, I don't know that it means that. It can be that transportive and that surreal and that important and still be fundamentally natural in the end.
like a teammate of the reproductive process.
Yeah, you know, you go, oh my God, I'm so in love. Well, why is that? Well, ultimately, get your genes in the next generation.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting because even this kind of moment is a little bit of that. Faith and science. A little bit of that, There's some mysticism, and then there's some science, right there with it. Your cancer diagnosis, can I get an update on it? Is that okay to ask?
Yeah, that's totally okay to ask. Thanks for asking, actually. 4 years ago, I had a giant tumor removed from my heart. It was a kind of cancer called synovial sarcoma. The tumor was about the size of a Coke can.
Ooh.
I know. It was a crazy, awful surgery. And the tumor had grown into the wall of my heart. So in the end, they couldn't take it all away. They could take away most of it, but the part that was in the wall of my heart, if they took that, I'd have a hole and my heart would be broken and I would die, died right there on the table. So I got out of that. They biopsied it. They said, yeah, it's this malignancy. And the oncologist said, you got 6 to 18 months to live. Well, that was over 4 years ago. And so I'm feeling very fortunate to still be here. I didn't expect to still be here. The amazing thing is during all this time, the only thing that's made me feel bad has been the therapy. In other words, recovering from the surgery made me feel bad. The chemo, the radiation made me feel bad. But I've never actually had any symptoms from the tumor itself. So now the tumor is like the size of a walnut and it's in the wall of my heart. And it means my heart muscle can't work quite as well, as efficiently. So like I can't do really high intensity exercise. Like I can't really run full out anymore. I used to like to downhill ski. I don't downhill ski anymore.
Bummer.
But, pretty much everything else that I want to do, I can do. I can be completely active in my world. And so one of the things is that it's made me really interested in cancer. Honestly, before I thought cancer was a kind of a boring area of biology. Oh, cells start to grow and they keep growing. It's important for people's lives, but, intellectually I don't really care about it. Now, of course, I'm really interested in it. And one of the things that is most interesting to me is that it's come full circle. So I'm a brain researcher. I got cancer. It turns out what we're learning now is that most solid tumors in the body eventually become innervated. In other words, nerves come from the brain and the spinal cord and they come to the tumor and they wrap around and they send messages. And when tumors get innervated, it's almost always bad news. When a tumor gets innervated, it means your prognosis is worse, the chance of it spreading is more, the chance of the tumor growing is more.
And the innervation happens so that the user will know they have the tumor? So the person...
No, you're not. This is all subconscious. In other words, you don't feel it. It's like, I can't go, oh yeah, I feel the tumor in my heart right now. I can't do that.
But why does the brain do that?
Well, we don't know. But it happens. But here's the interesting thing, right? So people ask me, why are you still alive after 4 years? To what do you attribute it? And when I say this, I am not being like woo-woo or metaphorical. I'm saying I attribute it to the love of my wife. I have a wonderful wife. She is the best. And I say my wife's love is keeping me alive. And that sounds like some very airy-fairy kumbaya kind of thing to say. But what's exciting to me is that there may well be a biological basis to this. When I receive my wife's love, my brain's reward circuitry, those dopamine neurons in the ventral tegmental area that we were talking about before, they light up, they fire. We now know from studies in laboratory animals that when those neurons fire, it activates the immune system in a way that can fight cancer.
Love will keep us alive.
Love will keep us alive, right? Love will not tear us apart, like Joy Division said. Love will keep us alive.
Yeah.
And I think that there are potential biological ways in which these things that we think of acting on sort of the spiritual level, love and faith and community, can affect your body and the progression of disease. I think the way that happens isn't a mystical way. Ultimately, it's a biological way, and ultimately we'll understand that. And that's what my new book is going to be about. My new book, which I'm writing right now, won't be out for quite a while, is going to be called The Real Science of Mind-Body Medicine. And it's going to be about exactly that.